They ignored the single dad veteran at the military parade, until the commander-in-chief saluted him. The crowd roared with excitement as the brass band's drums thundered down Main Street. Flags waved, children perched on their parents' shoulders, and the crisp autumn air carried the pride of an entire town. It was Veterans Day, the kind of day where every uniform gleamed, and every salute was met with cheers. But one man, standing quietly near the back of the crowd, seemed almost invisible. His name was Daniel Carter, 38 years old, a single dad, and a decorated veteran. Yet as the parade rolled on, no one turned their heads his way. No cameras sought his face, no reporters asked about his service. He held his little daughter's hand, a bright-eyed 6-year-old named Lily, who looked up at him with a smile that could outshine the sun. "Daddy," she tugged at his jacket, "why aren't you marching with them?" Daniel glanced at the marching columns of soldiers, their boots striking the pavement in perfect unison. His throat tightened. "Because, sweetheart," he said softly, "sometimes you don't need to be in the front to know you've already done your part." Lily frowned, not quite understanding, but hugged his arm anyway. Daniel had served 15 years in the army. He had medals, scars, and memories that haunted him more than they honored him. But when his wife passed suddenly 3 years ago, he hung up the uniform for good. His mission became raising Lily alone, quietly, without fanfare. And so, he stood in the crowd, not in the parade. As the parade continued, the mayor's car passed by, waving to the crowd. Behind him came local dignitaries, war heroes in full regalia, and the marching band blaring the Star-Spangled Banner. The townspeople cheered wildly. Yet Daniel stayed quiet, holding Lily close, his thoughts drifting between pride and a sting of loneliness. Then it happened. Lily, curious and innocent, wriggled free from her father's grip and darted forward, squeezing between cheering onlookers. Before Daniel could stop her, she ran straight onto the street, straight toward the approaching line of marching soldiers. Gasps rippled through the crowd. "Lily!" Daniel's voice cracked as he pushed through people, his heart pounding. A young officer halted his step, motioning the column to pause. The little girl stood frozen, wide-eyed at the towering soldiers. Then, she raised her tiny hand and saluted them, crooked, clumsy, but so earnest it brought silence to the street. The crowd held its breath. And then, almost in slow motion, the commander-in-chief himself, seated high in a decorated vehicle behind the soldiers, rose to his feet. He looked at the little girl, then at Daniel, who had just reached her, pulling her gently back into his arms. Recognition flickered across the commander's face. He knew that man. Daniel Carter, the soldier who, years ago in a desert battlefield, had risked his life to drag 3 wounded men out of a burning convoy. The story had circulated through military channels but never made headlines. Daniel had refused interviews, medals quietly stored away in a drawer at home. The commander stepped down from his vehicle. The parade froze. Cameras clicked. The world seemed to stop. He walked straight past the front row of officials, past the soldiers, and stopped in front of Daniel. "Sergeant Carter," he said, his voice strong enough for the crowd to hear. "It's been too long." Daniel's eyes widened. He hadn't expected to ever hear his name called like that again. The commander raised his hand. And in front of the entire parade, the entire town, he saluted the single dad veteran who had been standing unnoticed at the back. Gasps turned into applause. Cheers erupted. Some wiped tears from their eyes. Daniel, caught between disbelief and humility, returned the salute with his free hand, holding Lily tight in the other. She buried her face against his chest, not fully understanding, but sensing the weight of the moment. Reporters rushed forward. Cameras flashed. But Daniel didn't look at them. His eyes were locked on the commander, who leaned closer and said, low enough only Daniel could hear, "You may not wear the uniform anymore, but your service never left you. You're still leading, just in a different way." Daniel swallowed hard, his voice failing him. All he could do was nod. The commander stepped back, gave one final salute, and returned to his vehicle. But the moment had already changed everything. The crowd surged with applause, chanting Daniel's name. Strangers shook his hand, others patted his shoulder, and more than one whispered a quiet thank you with tears in their eyes. But Daniel didn't bask in it. He just looked down at Lily, who whispered softly, "Daddy, now they see you." He smiled, tired, proud, and maybe for the first time in years, at peace. And as the parade moved on, Daniel Carter stood taller than he had in a long time, his daughter's small hand tucked firmly in his own.